Hi everyone, I've got Rory here with me today. When I asked a number of different people who should I talk to around product marketing, Rory's name come up a number of different times, and someone I get on very well with sung his praises. So, Rory, I'd love for you to give a little intro to yourself, what you do, and how you've got here.
And yeah, nice to be on, Danny. Thanks for having me on. So hi, I'm Rory. I run a consultancy firm called The Product Marketer, which works with companies across Europe and at the EMEA region on raising their product marketing game. And so working with them on unlocking insights, refining positioning, messaging, product launches, new product development, all kind of with the aim of long-term growth. How I got there here was, I think, through a long stint product marketing at Google and YouTube, and then spent the last 6 or so years more in the startup and scale up space with a mix of B2C and B2B players. Most recently now consulting with a range of those companies, having been in-house for about 15 years.
Perfect. So you've been there, seen it, and done it all.
Yeah, I've done a mix of things, and yeah, and also like have been there from, I guess, the early days of product marketing, at least in Europe. I'd say product marketing is maybe about 20 years old if you like look stateside. It's really got popular in Europe the last 5 to 10 years. So I've been there for all of that, which has been really satisfying to sort of watch it play out.
Should we dive into what product marketing is to you and how you sort of explain it to one of your parents or your friends who don't quite get it?
Yeah, totally. So I think what's interesting about product marketing, some or slightly worrying, is with social media management or SEO, we're not having those conversations, are we? It's like a one-time explanation. Whereas I think at every company I've worked with, product marketing has been a little bit different, and so still in 2025, we're still having to do the what is it? I think I if I was going to describe it, I'd say it's a strategic function that finds a common language between your product and tech teams and your commercial marketing and sales teams to be able to communicate the value of your product, to make it make sense to your customers. I mean, like in a really short like way, I just call it like product message clarity. Like that's what you're looking for. Like how that plays out is it's a team that is a bridge between like all the different kind of customer facing parts of your business, like sales, marketing, customer success, customer support, design, product, even engineering. There's a team that's touching on all of that to make sure everyone gets the strategy, everyone knows the customer, everyone is working towards telling the same story. And yeah, which I guess might not make sense to my parents, I'd say, but I think they'd be like, "What are you on about?" But maybe someone who works in tech or marketing would get it.
I recently had to explain it or re-explain it to a founder, and they couldn't
Mm.
work out whether it was like a marketing role or whether it was like a product role or whether it was growth because they've obviously heard the three interchangeably, but I don't think they did necessarily worked with like a proper product marketeer. So it's nice that you gave it a one liner.
Well, and the thing is, because it's a bit of like a shape shifting role. Like the person that arrives and that usually they've got product marketing experience and they'll probably be T-shaped, so they'll probably be good at a couple of things. But the idea of product marketing is also you you fill those gaps, and so a company like might not have a user research or market research team, or like that team might not be experience in doing all the commercial bits that you need them to. So product marketing might fill that gap. But then, I've been at other places where you've got a really strong research function. And that isn't, product marketing, we waste a bit of time spending a lot of time there. And actually it's more like, a messaging or uh, tying product development to commercial thinking kind of need. So you shift to where the problem is, or where the biggest business problem is, or where you personally or as a product marketing team can have the biggest impact. But the problem with that, it does add to a bit of confusion because it means, anyone who's worked with product marketer gets it's kind of different experiences of it.
I tend to say I agree. I tend to say when I set up teams and help in coaching, I tend to say if you've got a really strong product marketeer, they're probably going to be a great head of for in and around products itself. So I tended to used to assign a product marketeer as heading up the product. So, and I was, a bit like a GM essentially. And what I loved about that was they had a real instinct around how to market the product, how paid and social and SEO and that would fit in. And it goes in swings and roundabouts, but I definitely think in today's market, we're going to get back to that sort of area where I think product marketing is probably best set to own products or SKUs or product lines.
It's kind of where the market's going. Like you're hearing those stories coming out of Apple and Airbnb, like Airbnb quite, famously did it. I think Brian Chesky announced it at Fig Jam a couple of years ago. And with that justification of like, if you're building a product, you need to know what's going on in the market, so you know how to differentiate and have an exceptional story. But also, yeah, you need to know the story you're going to tell before any code gets written, anything gets built. And so I think there's a really good case, not in every company, not in every product org, but there's definitely a case for product marketers like leading a lot of that.
100%, 100%. Where do you think we are? What do you reckon the current state of play is? Where do you think we are with product marketing in 2025, 2026?
Yeah, well, I'd say like, you have to say like Europe and the UK is different to the States. Like the States is like, let's say 10 years ahead. But that's also not to say that we're going to go in the direction they're going to go. Like the European tech ecosystem just probably isn't going to ever look like the US tech ecosystem because of regulation and the fragmented countries and so on and culture. So with that logic, product marketing probably won't ever look how it does in the States. But what I would say it's probably gone from there was a big burst of recruitment in 2021, like when there was a lot of investment happening in tech back in 2021. And people were kind of like, like we probably need a product marketing function. Haven't worked with one before, but we need to spin one up. Let's how do we get a 5-10 person team going? But with a lot of kind of ambiguity and mystery around that. Now we're at a point where I think a lot of companies have developed a view on what they want product marketing to be. Those views differ per business, but I think it does mean that the next phase, product marketing, it's going to be more sophisticated, it's going to be more understood, more accepted. I think it will be invested in maybe with a bit more caution. I think you're going to look at like smaller teams with big expectations around what they can deliver. But I do also think like product marketing consultancy in the States has blown up and it's huge. And I do think that is going to be a trend in Europe because it's starting to happen. It's like I made the leap last year and it's been fantastic. And I know sort of others are either sort of making that move, doing the same, just because of there's so many like small and growing businesses in the UK and Europe. With AI, like we're all aware of it every day. There's like new exciting companies that we're all learning about. Those companies will have product marketing challenges, like anyone has product marketing challenges, but maybe not the budget or the inclination to hire a seasoned PMM to come in full time. And they might not need to, because you only need to revisit your value prop like once a year, or you might be you're launching a major product, which it's almost seasonal work. So I think there's a huge use case for it, and I think that's only going to grow.
Completely agree. My favorite like example is now where, as you said, AI can't escape AI. With a lot of AI is we're getting to that point where I think a lot of products are going to slow down from PLG, like product-led growth. And I think a lot of companies are going to have to invest quite heavily or very smartly into very good PMMs who are going to understand how to market the products or the product feature updates versus the product actually being able to do that. And although you'll probably bake it in and you'll do some internal and external work around it, I think one of the big shifts companies are going to have to get their head around is you're probably going to have to invest in a very good PMM like you, or a product marketeer like you, to help them drive change and drive smart adoption, as opposed to this high churn world that a lot of them are living in at the moment.
Totally. And I think AI it's gonna help so many marketers, but I think it particularly is gonna help product marketers, because when you talk to a product marketer about why they're frustrated or why they're not working on what they want to work on, it's because somebody's dumping email marketing work on them, website copy. They're going to 30 meetings a week and having to write up all the notes and action all the notes for all of that. And, all of that kind of goes or gets like automated to a point of like, you're just sort of editing and tidying something up. So if people are using tools in the right way, I think you're freeing up 20 hours a week at least there. And suddenly you've got, so PMMs have got that time back that they've always sought. And, that is when you go to like, what if I spend that time researching an entire new product line we could be getting into, or like, what is the best market we should launch this product in next?
Yeah, completely agree. I'm going to ask you the tricky question, which people don't like asking, but I think as you're here, I should ask you the tricky one. We call it product marketing. There's probably a better way of framing it, but do you think product marketing should be reporting into marketing, or should they be reporting into product? Or, as I've seen some savvy companies do, they've put them under ops or operations. Where do you think PMMs should live or report through?
Yeah, I wouldn't be sold on ops or operations, but like, I mean, my cop out answer would be whichever leader in the C-suite understands product marketing the best, and or has the strongest opinion on it, like really values it. It's like, I'm going to spend time on this. This isn't going to just be my, like, a side of brain. Oh God, I've got like, product marketing's got to live somewhere. So like, ideally someone who's worked with it before, passionate about it, has strong opinions. I've found, at least with European companies, that's more likely to be a marketing leader than a product leader. But I've also worked with product leaders who really get it and, want to work closely. The way I view it when I've set up product marketing teams and businesses is like, you should be able to like take that whole team, put them reporting into the other counterpart, the CPO or CMO, and things run pretty smoothly and people barely notice the difference. Like, what I would say though is I've also reported into, for like extended periods, CEOs and chief revenue officers, and that has been like incredibly effective for like making fast progress on the big stuff. It's not always sustainable having something like product marketing report into like those senior function, but what it does is it reflects that kind of neutrality and like that central point of like, you do get these challenges when you put product marketing into one team. Like, it can either skew too heavily under the influence of the team it reports into, or it almost creates this sense of not quite rivalry but maybe tribalism of, oh, product marketing is part of marketing. It's like they're not going to get product, they're not going to they're just going to be thinking about brand or whatever, or vice versa. Product marketing is just a mouthpiece for product. So it's a tightrope.
I was feeling the splinters when you were talking. It was like, should it be, where should it go? I've seen it work so well in product, because they can take the product mindset and apply it to like have a marketing ethos and help reshape and shape how people think from a product perspective. And I personally, at the moment, I lean more towards the marketing side, because unfortunately, the way that a lot of companies set up in Europe or EMEA, it's very OKR, too heavy OKR driven. So very often they're too shaped by the goals as opposed to actually what would make the company and the product or product features successful. So for me, I think it will all depend, but it's definitely that triangulation role where you have to play as like the glue, or like you said, no one wants to get in between two tribes, but you kind of have to bring them together and centralize them a lot. So it's definitely something that I have high opinions on, but it's all dependent on that individual company.
it's why it ends up being a really tough role and also a really tough team to manage and like have in your org as well, because they're typically, like PMMs, often very smart people, very ambitious people, but they're getting pinballed around a business where everyone's got a list of things they want product marketing working on. Everyone's got their view of the right work they should be doing, the high impact stuff, and you end up not being able to please anyone. And that's so you can be working really hard, doing great work, but to sort of be doing it effectively, you'd have to be doing like three different lists of like sales, marketing, product, wish list. And so it's a really hard one.
You've worked in, with some amazing companies, away from what you're obviously your consultancy now. You've obviously worked with, some of the really big ones, so some of the FANG members, etc. Do you see like a common theme? You've worked startup side and these huge, big businesses. Do you see like a common theme, or do you see like a real difference between the working styles of them around product and PMM work?
I think like they're totally different beasts. Like in many ways, I'd say like you can find fantastic product people and fantastic like marketing people at like regardless of size. I think I would say like the caliber of product manager when I was at Google and YouTube for that period of like 2013 to 2019 was like world class, and I still use that as the benchmark of kind of like where the best product people I met in my career were. But I still meet people of that caliber now. I think on product marketing, the challenges are wildly different. Like you're a company like Meta or Salesforce, you're work, and I haven't worked with either of these, but just sort of like that sort of size of you're going to be working more likely like on a feature or like a kind of quite a specific product vertical. Whereas if you're working at a 50-person, 100-person, you're going to get to work on a company wide sort of spanning like thing. Like I think even if you're the head of product marketing at one of these bigger companies, you're not the head of product marketing for that entire company. The company's too large, too complex to be able to get your arms around it and tell a clear story. It's why it's so hard when you're that size. But like the upside of these smaller companies is you can come up with like a full company wide narrative. You've got kind of, if you're under 100 employees, probably you've probably got like one clear answer to who your customer is, like one clear answer to who the competition is, one clear answer to the value your product delivers. So that's like huge upside to that. Downside is you won't have all the resources to like pull off that execution in a way you would at one of the larger businesses.
I have a feeling that you prefer smaller than larger businesses. Is that fair?
These days, yeah, I had a great time working at like so yeah, I was at Amazon and Google and YouTube, and then like most recently I worked at Monzo, like which is in the thousands. And there's huge upsides there, and you're working on products that like are already changing people's lives, changing the way people like manage their lifestyles or manage their money or just like what shapes their day. I think for me, I like working on the uphill challenge, of like the journey towards like cracking something. Like I think maybe a lot of product marketers will relate, because it comes back to like problem solving, and like some of those hardest problems are in those like early years. But I do like being able to move fast. I do like that that ability that we was just talking about, of being able to capture the whole company's story in what you're doing with product marketing. And so yeah, if I was going to pick favors, it probably would be small and medium sized businesses.
If people are listening and they want to hire you, if you're in that sort of size range, Rory's going to do an amazing job for you. From experience, I much prefer the 50 to 250 to 500 range as opposed to the 500 to 5,000 range. I think when you get so big, you can't remember a lot of people's names, and you just about remember the org they work in or the business department they work in. I think it's kind of hard, especially in the product marketing or product world or growth world, to influence it as much and not have so many different opinions and so many different features you have to sort of push out. So yeah, that was my bias.
I think so, and I know I totally agree. And also, like me in a consultant capacity, so like where it tends to work best is when I come in, and I am going to be able to get time with the founders, the CEO, like the senior leaders, not just to be able to sort of like chat with them and try and influence, and I see that work through, but also to get that absolute gold of like insights of like, okay, why did you start the company? Why did you what problem were you solving back in the day? Because like something I've written about recently is like I think that founders are the original product marketers. They're doing everything in those early years. They're meeting with customers, they're showing them the MVP product. They're going, does this app product solve this problem for you? They obsess over the competition. They're probably the ones doing the homepage. They're probably the ones building the sales deck because they're the ones pitching it. And so getting that download, that debrief from them makes for a much more successful consulting project. And I think, just the reality is with a larger business, like often the founders moved on, or the CEO's like here and isn't close to any of that as much. So yeah, there's an extra benefit there.
There's definitely there's a huge benefit that I think people misinterpret is if you can even get 5 minutes with a founder or a founder CEO and understand because they ultimately were the product leader, they were the marketing leader, and very often they're still chief product leader, still chief marketeer. It's just if you can't get that the 20 bullet points that they go and tell their story, or if you got them placed on one of the best podcasts in the world that still tell those like nuggets of information that's still so relevant, you still push, I think is so vitally important. And if you can get that, say, once a week, once a fortnight, I think it does generally make your product stand out far more. And because they've got that taste, that feel of the product or the marketing, that if you veer too far away from it, that's when I think some people become quite unsuccessful in their marketing, product or growth roles.
I think that really happens, and there's often like a trend where the founder or CEO has that product marketing role covered, like to a point, like 30 people, it's still possible to get everyone in a room, get everyone aligned on things like the customer, the competition, the story. At some point that stops scaling, and it's actually quite a while before someone notices that it's not scaled anymore. And then you get to like 80, 100 people, and people go, oh, we should probably hire a product marketer by now. And at that point, everything's got a bit out of hand, and sales have one pitch, and product are building for a different story, and marketing are doing their own thing. So I definitely see that at a bunch of places.
What's one of your superpowers that you have that many other people sort of don't? When when one of your clients comes to you and says, what are you great at that other people don't know, or what's one of the secrets that that others just don't? Are you willing to sort of share any of those and to give people like a real flavor of you and product marketing?
I'm definitely an open book, and like I should say, yeah, I do like a weekly Substack called The Product Marketer, where I do just sort of I share as much as I can, because I think there is a lack of like solid product marketing content out there, and so I do my best like to share the method to my madness. But I don't know, I think that you really can't underestimate simplicity, and like probably like the secret I have is like what I don't know is that like I keep it like really varied in terms of the kind of industries I work with. So I work with like fintech, green tech, HR tech, B2C, B2B. And what that means, like typically with a new client, I won't be incredibly close to the industry. And I think any product marketer should do this, or any marketing leader should do this, is like embrace that period and like do a diagnostic before you understand any of it. Because as soon as you're in it, you're infected by the what you know, and you start doing the inside thinking and starting talking the in-house lingo. But like if you think about your customer, like if you're a tech product, there's a good chance that your customer doesn't even know your product category exists, let alone you. And even though they know all the terms that you're buying for, they don't know any of this stuff. And so I think what I try and make the most of that my naive, ignorant brain, pre like getting into it, to really do like a full tear down that I'll keep to myself. Because half of it might be, unfair or irrelevant, or, but I keep going back to that as almost that source of truth, of like let's not lose sight here. So that's like one thing I do, but also, yeah, like I had a client coin this term for me a few months ago, which was like radical simplicity, of like, I will push for the most simple version of something to the point that it maybe gets annoying, but like for the client, but like you just can't underestimate the power of it. Like, what is the shortest way to say something? Like, does that feature really need to get communicated in that first sales conversation, or does it really deserve its own product page, or did you need 50 words to describe that thing versus 10? And so, or like, do you need to build all 5 of those things, or would it actually make sense to just like focus on 1 or 2 and park those things? Because I think so much of strategy is about trade-offs and choices and sticking to your guns on those choices. One word would be simplicity, and really living that value.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I think one thing that's great about your Substack is you share goals every episode, every newsletter. And I think one core takeaway that I've noticed across my career with the best PMMs or the best marketeers in general is they can simplify, and they can take in a load of information, they can condense it down, and they can pull it into 2 or 3 lines, or they could put it onto 1 slide as opposed to 100 slides, and really understand understand that they're 1 step away from the customer. Versus, I think what happens to a lot of marketing departments or product departments is you get 2 or 3 steps away, and then, like you said, with internal lingo, I think you get so blinded by either goals or by actually this feature that you're so obsessed around that actually you forget that the end customer exists, or you forget that the customer actually needs to use it. I say things should be easy to learn, easy to use, easy to share, easy to personalize, because if they're not going to do those things in that order, it's very difficult for the customer to really enjoy it and be able to learn it and use it and want to use it continuously and bring their network or their friends to it. Versus, I think what a lot of PMMs or marketing leaders often forget is they get so sucked into this hole of, we have to do this and this is the way we do it and this is the brand guidelines. I think actually that simplicity in those few steps that you were referencing are critically important, and the best ones always do understand it, stick to it, and drive it forward. With AI being the technology that's probably going to drive us for a number of years moving forward, it's obviously got a critical role from products and critical role from marketing. But do you see how do you see product marketing playing the critical role within adoption curve, or the moving from the early adopters to the laggards? What do you see, or what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. Well, I think first will be like making it make sense to the people outside of the bubble, out of the tech bubble, because I've worked with a number of AI products and companies, and like being able to like get really nice exposure to like market research in this space. And like one word that comes up a lot with the more mainstream consumers is overwhelmed, and overwhelming is like a word that they associate with it, and often in a good way. It's not that they're scared of AI. It's more like this awareness that there's infinite possibilities of what you can do with it, but God, like, where do I start? And I think product marketing can play a key role, like industry wide, on this, like making it accessible, finding those use cases per cohort of consumer, and finding those like gap beyond. I think we've entered the norm of ChatGPT being a great place for like if you need a recipe or all of that. But like the next thing that's coming around, like the proper agent stuff, the ChatGPT agent, you can tell it to find me a restaurant, book me a restaurant, and all of that, or manage my calendar. Like I think there's a bunch there, along with trust as well, because like the next phase requires a lot of like, I'm going to give you permission to access my Google account or my calendar and all of that, my passwords, and that can be pretty eerie for people. And then I think the other thing product marketing is going to be like really like called up on to help with is like differentiation, because we're going to be looking at absolute saturation of product categories, even like new product categories that you and I can't think of right now. Once they get going, they become saturated, because products like Lovable now mean that anyone who can think of an app can build 80% of an app quite quickly. And it's never been easier, like by a long way, to start a tech company or like have an idea and start like testing it. So I think you're gonna see huge saturation, and the winners, as they often are, will be those who master like marketing, like more generally distribution, like and like a clear, compelling marketing story.
I think I nodded my head off then. I was like, I was nodding along to what you said. I've got an AI for Executives podcast coming out with someone who's been in AI since 2018, and we did a whole episode last week around why it's going to be more and more critical that you get your marketing and your brand and your product marketing nailed. And one thing you said is, differentiation. And as I said, and I've written about a number of times, is when AI enables anyone to one-click copy their competitor, what is it that's going to make you stand out and stick in someone's mind? And that's going to be driven by PMMs. That's going to be driven by brands. It's going to be driven by experience. So, yeah, if people are worried in the space, they're the three core areas I recommend, and it sounds like we're very aligned in that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What with a lot of the work that you do, and obviously you help CPOs and CMOs, and we were talking just before we hit record on a marketplace you're helping at the moment. What are the sort of 3 to 5 areas that you help most, with the department lead, the CMO or CPO, the 3 to 5 things that you help most with that some people probably don't necessarily think of or wouldn't include in a job spec?
Yeah, no, of course. I think like one is probably understanding the customer in a way that like is deep and organized. I mentioned at the start, like product marketing being like finding the common language, like finding a common language for the whole company to talk about the customer, and not just like rushing to do like personas like Mike the marketer and this is who we build for. It's like I talk about like customer understanding a bit like a Russian doll, because there's like these things that go in each other, and I start with the TAM and understanding that full opportunity. Then I look at segmentation. Then I look at ICP, like based on tangible attributes, and then you get to the persona stuff. But it's a process. So that'd be one. I think 2 would be like the act of positioning. And like, so I think a lot of people talk about positioning as like a thing you can kind of do on a Tuesday afternoon, like over an hour or 2, and some whiteboarding. Like, it's for product marketers, positioning is an intentional process that follows a number of steps. There's kind of like 2 approaches that you can take. There's like an old school approach, and there's an approach by someone called April Dunford, who's like fantastic. Both are really good. I actually sort of pick between them as, based on like what the right need is for the business. But I think product marketing can really help with that. And the process requires you to then go fully understand your customer, the competition, the needs of the external market, the needs of your existing customer base, and then what your product can deliver, and then make some really hard choices so that you don't end up being for everyone with a product that solves everything, and you're going to be the fastest, cheapest, smartest, easiest, what are you going to major in? And so I think you can add a lot of value. And I think particularly consultants can, because of the fact you can be pretty objective, pretty scientific, not get pulled into the politics of something like that, and make a pretty objective recommendation. And then I think the third thing, like a consultant or a product marketer in general can, I think, yeah, is like the storytelling of, be it a new product launch, feature launch, new product line, or like you're revisiting your overall value prop because your customer base has matured, or so on, or the market's changed. And I think coming up with something that's like interesting, marketable, set up for longevity, but actually like isn't just like pulled out the air and gone, okay, like we want to be this for, we want to tell this story. It's like based on customer feedback, customer insight, the actual value of your product. So I think those are like, yeah, something, because there's so much of what we're known for is like launches, and like a founder or a head of marketing will go, okay, this thing's shipping in 6 months. Better hire a product marketer for that. But that's like a one-off thing, and it will be important. But like the value you're going to get from someone is someone who's like beds in long term and does that foundational work before getting to any of those, like, let's ship that. Because once you're in that mode, you tend not to be working on the highest priority stuff. You're in the P2s. You're not on the top stuff.
I call product marketing a full funnel role now. I've got a number of them, probably 8 or 9, which I referenced in Marketing Unfiltered number 40. Basically, it's the future of the marketing department is going to be, very different, or it's going to be an evolution versus a revolution. But as you said, distribution earlier on, and sort of iterated it now, I think product marketing is going to be a full funnel role, and it's going to sit across whether you think you have an engine, loops, or funnel. I actually think it's going to be from the top of the top to the bottom of the bottom. It's going to be helping to reduce churn. It's going to be help with retention. It's going to help with referrals. So for me, I think that's one thing that people really overlook with product marketeers and PMMs specifically, and really good ones think that way anyway. They're just often not enabled to work across the full funnel because they're at product launch or launch V2 a lot of the time. So a lot of things that you said completely resonate. And if I had a recommendation, not to steal yours, but if I had a recommendation, it would be to make PMMs full funnel and sit across it all, because they can see things that others don't, and they can be objective, whereas brand often are brand police. They over police the brand versus they don't coach the brand, which I think PMMs tend to do a little bit better in today's market.
I think so. And product marketing plays that key role in making the brand stick as well, because a good PMM can speak a product manager's language about the things that person cares about, and it's not just like, we have to do this because that's the brand. That finding that middle language. And then similarly, yeah, I think the risk with brand is that it becomes too detached from the what the product's actually solving, the value the product delivers, even like what the customers are valuing about it, and it becomes this aspirational thing. And so I think a product marketer, if it's listened to, can just help ground a brand team a bit, give it that credibility that then unlocks that buy-in from the rest of the business.
It's this interchange, this interwoven role, which I think is the common theme, which unfortunately I don't think a lot of people truly see or get to see within marketing orgs, especially if you haven't worked with a very good one. I think actually it kind of gets downplayed too much, but maybe that's my bias in having that background and knowing the power of PMMs.
Totally. And I mean, I think because there's this whole like challenge of like how there's where does it live, product marketing, and then it's like, what does that role look like? Like, do you tie it to product line? Do you put them in a squad? Do you tie it to industry vertical, persona type? And so, and like, I think I found most success when it ends up being like a hybrid, and you've got like a sort of a mix of rules for that. But I think like one thing, and this is like, I think on the rise, but more of a theory right now. I couldn't say it's definitely going to happen, but I think there's going to be a rise of like the principal product marketer, or like a staff product marketer, someone who's very senior but doesn't want to go down that head of director route, like, because A, there might not be, enough like space in the team for that. B, in the way that, not all engineers want to be managers like at the end of the career, but they just want to do high impact work. I think that's product marketing is that kind of role as well. It attracts that kind of person. You could almost imagine that principal product marketer role having the remit of like kind of product line agnostic, just is thinking about that full funnel as you describe, or kind of thinking about the real bigger picture to make sure that silo. Even product marketers, if you put them in a team, they end up doing all these different things. You need to bring them together, and that's not always easy for a head of product marketing, because that person's being a manager and managing upwards and sideways and everything. So I think that'd be really interesting, and I'd be a big advocate of that emerging as a role.
Completely. I think often people see generalists, this is specialists, and then they see like ICs and managers, and they think it's 2 up or 2 across, depending on how you look at it. I actually think product marketing can be what I call more of an expert role. It is that expert that can come in and be highly respected, can help everyone else understand it. They can coach people around them, but they can really focus on their job as opposed to focus on being a manager and a player. And reason why I think these expert roles might come out is, like, in America they call them super ICs, but I think actually what we're going to be able to see more so with PMMs, I think, is this real ability to maniacally focus on getting the best work out, as opposed to having to manage multiple people in a team. And really good PMMs probably do 2 people's job anyway, but they're very good at triangulation. They're very good at connecting the dots. They're very good at bringing their colleagues in on their journey, versus I think others whose career path very much is a manager or an IC. So this super IC, this expert, I think could be a great evolution for PMMs.
Totally.
If you could change one thing within marketing, in the marketing world, or the marketing setup, is there something that's always been a bugbear that you think could be changed, or you'd love to change it?
Yeah, I mean, I like, other than that broader, like, wouldn't it be great if everyone understood the function a bit better, and had a appetite and brain space for understanding it better? Because that's sometimes the challenge. I think it's having, if you've got kind of directors of all the other marketing functions, making sure you've got product marketing staffed accordingly, and there's balance there. And then I think it's doing whatever you can to not have those scope creep roles, like work streams coming into product marketing's world, like be it CRM work or website copy or project managing the launches. Sometimes product marketing just fills a gap where there should be a program manager on the technical team. So like I think having all of that fixed, but beyond that, I think it's heading towards like a really good direction, especially with previously mentioned AI capabilities. That it's probably removing the big bugbear of like all the kind of either not our job work or less impact, but it's urgent, less important, rather than not urgent but very important. Which I think so many roles have that battle, but yeah, product marketing definitely does. But like that excuse is going, I think.
The more it matures again, and the more momentum that's needed within the PMM world and within the marketing world, I can see that aligning really well. And the best CMOs that I've ever worked with, helped out, or consulted with, really understand that actually they have to evolve and create org design for much longer than the average person does. And I think that's by environmental factors, but very often the best marketing leaders or product leaders, to that matter, really understand that they're on an 18th to 24-month journey, and that they have to understand where the skills gaps are, but also where the people, the leadership, and where the direction of the company and the industry is going, and shape it that way. So for me, that's exactly that. Before we jump into some quickfire round, you shared some great tools on one of your recent newsletters. Is there three tools in your tool stack or your toolkit that people either you would recommend it to everyone or happily keep to yourself, but you'd happily share today?
No, I mean, yeah, like I say in the article, I think it's like choosing your LLM of choice of like your go-to, and like committing to getting that working. And I use that in a variety of ways. I use it to like mine is ChatGPT, and I think for one, the deep research function is like worth the money alone, really, in terms of like getting a first pass of understanding something very quickly and deeply. But then beyond that, using it to sort of as that sparring partner, like to like when you haven't got someone to like spar with, be it viewing it someone who is playing the role of the stakeholder or your support person, and just just using it to riff with. I think it's incredibly useful for a product marketer, which, along with being a very collaborative role, can also be quite a lonely role when it actually comes to getting down to the work. Beyond that, I think like Granola, incredible UK based company, like an amazing team, that like just so good for productivity, and so good for that use case of like, yeah, product marketers just in so many meetings, and not only does it take that job away of writing it up, I think it writes up notes better than any well, definitely than I could. So like I think, yeah, so I definitely recommend that. And then I think a fun one that I am actually starting to use like more in my content creation for like my newsletter and website is one called Reeve, Reve, which is just like it's an image creation, but it's like really neat, really fast as well, and just like very interactive, very useful. So I'd yeah, that's a fun one to play with, and it's kind of like for when you're flexing that creative muscle.
Thanks for sharing those. I think I didn't know about Reeve until your newsletter, so that's turned me on. And Granola's one, just if people haven't used it or haven't seen it, it's a great note taking app. It doesn't struggle with knowing who's spoken and what. Understands if you don't necessarily, in some of the other apps, if you don't say the next actions are or the owner is, it's very good at summarizing it and putting it together in a shareable file, or it's got shareable URLs, and you can share it across multiple different Slack teams, etc. So it is very good. Ready for a quickfire round?
Go on then.
Cool.
Let's give it a try.
Is there one metric that people overlook the importance of?
My opinion is that people spend too much time on metrics for product marketing, and that it's a bit of a distraction, because I don't think there is a high impact metric that product marketing can own on its own. And I'd actually rather put product marketing on the hook of, can you deliver this by this date to this quality or something. But I mean, I guess metrics that you could put product marketing as a co-owner, like, might be something around product adoption, might be something around like win-loss rates if you're sales led. But I'd definitely be thinking about, if we part the metrics conversation, like, what would be a great outcome for this team or person in 6 months' time?
Good luck on some of the startups accepting that one. If you had one marketing tool to get off a desert island that you're stranded on, which one tool would you use?
A marketing tool. And what is into? I've got one, and that's all I've got to do my marketing with.
Yeah, to get off the desert island.
Oh, to get off the desert island with. Oh, well, I think no. I mean, feels like a bit of a cop out, but I think, yeah, like probably ChatGPT. It probably tell me how to do everything. Probably, and in a couple of years, it probably build the boat for me. Like 3D print it out, and it would come collect me. So I'll do that.
Great. I thought you were going to say LinkedIn or something, but happily search.
Okay, I can search for that kind of like, yeah, 10 things. BZB SaaS can teach you about getting off an island.
Yeah, exactly. What's the tactic that people most overlook?
I like coming back to customer reviews. Just for it's something that, you say customer reviews in a meeting, and everyone's like, oh yeah, totally, we should look at those. But almost it's so hard actually for carving out the time. I think there's gold both for on the bad side, like bad reviews, you can obviously learn a lot. The good stuff though, great for like getting the creative cogs going on your messaging and like what like getting into the nuance of what people really like about you.
Couldn't agree more. Is there a common theme that you're seeing time and time again that's hindering companies that you work with or competitors?
Probably like the owning of positioning. I think, like we touched on, I think like large businesses, it's like positioning, maybe a messaging lives with brand. And I don't like, and I love brand teams. Like I love working with brand teams, but I don't think, I think product marketing in the past 5 years has really like developed a great like process and best practices on this stuff. And I think a company can make like much faster, stronger progress on that area when it's given to product marketing.
If there's one area you could change in marketing or product, and you could change it, what would it be?
I don't know how controversial this is, but I think it'd be like the status of performance marketing. In that, I just feel performance marketing is like the black box of marketing. It takes up the huge chunk of the budget, kind of all everyone's interested in, but also, not everyone gets full transparency on it. And I sometimes think it's like it takes away some of the joy and creativity of the marketing. I think we end up not talking about the long term stuff that like will differentiate you. When we're talking about AI products, like what we can do there. There's a short term gains to be on, like who can run the most effective AdWords or like TikTok campaign. But it ends up being very, like short termist, pretty transactional. I think it's also where marketing maybe is the most exposed. When we go, God, AI is going to replace us. When we're not creating the space to have creative thinking and ideas that only a talented human could come up with, then there is a case for replacing us. If it is just a like, this is the optimal time length and slice it here and slice it here and do it by that. But I'd be interested in your on that one as a broader marketing leader who's a bit less biased.
No, actually, I agree. I think there's what I call head, heart, gut. Head is the data's there, say like 80 to 90% there. It's the easy choice, you're going to do it. And I think that's what happens a lot of time in performance. I think there's heart where
Mm,
the data is 50 to 60% of the way there, but it's going to work. So you work really hard to bring it out. You create compelling content. You create a great campaign based off heart. And you're going to say the data might be slightly off, but we're going to make this work. We're going to work really hard to do it. And I think that's where PMMs are very good at understanding that. And I think performance marketeers struggle a little bit to say in that area. And I think where most automation's coming in is the 80%, and it's the easy choice because it's going to get signed off. It's the CFO friendly choice. And then I say gut,
mm,
which is where we used to be, say 20 years ago or 10 years ago. The data isn't there, or we don't have access to data. And actually,
mm,
we know that this is where what people need, where they need to go. Therefore, we're going to create something that's brilliant. We're going to do as much as we can to learn about the space or create the space, and then build something that's amazing or creative or remarkable. And what that then enables people to do, especially in and around that, is to understand actually we're in this spot where we've got something, we know we're going to be completely different, and we're going to drive something forward where we're all aligned on it, versus where I think often the easier decisions at heart and at head can actually create such, like you said, short-termism or even tribalism around that we can only spend there. And my
mm,
fear is when I coach CMOs, they've been conditioned into, and marketing leaders in general, depending on title, they've been so conditioned into performance only, which it really does make every other department a little bit jealous. They have to think short term because they're almost just having to feed the algorithmic changes versus actually answer customer problems, build a brand, build experiences that's connective. So that's not a quickfire answer, but I agree. And also I
mm,
think where performance lacks often is once one thing is proven to be successful, everyone copies. Whereas marketing before used to be, you can copy, but you make it different or you make it original. And I think that's where we've lost a little bit of the magic.
Totally. And it's not to question the value of that function at all. It's more just, everything in moderation. And when a trend goes to any extreme, it's too extreme. And I think that's sort of where we're at in some parts of the industry.
I think we've often forgotten that where things used to trend for a long time, they don't anymore. And the way that the tools and the apps work now is micro trends, and they're trendy in certain bubbles. So actually what happens is a lot of teams veer towards the trends that they see versus actually understand what the customer wants, where they need to go, and what they truly want to see or haven't even thought about seeing before. So I think these are core areas that if you're listening now or watching now, that will give you something to really think of and challenge your inner Rory to say, actually, this is, make it simple. This is what the customer needs, or what they've implied they wanted, but they're not actually getting. And I think that's where marketing's going to play a vitally important role in this over AI optimized world, which some people are already living in now. So yeah, completely agree. Is there a question I should have asked you that I didn't? And if so, what is it?
No, I mean, you've asked a lot, and it's been great. So not too. I mean, so one I get asked a lot is like, what does good look like? What does great look like? And I think that's becoming a trend with like CMOs and marketing leaders. They know they don't know product marketing inside out, but they know enough to be able to be like, okay, I want to know what good looks like, and they can sense when a PMM isn't strong. I think for me, there's not like one brilliant answer for it, but I would like the word I always come back to is clarity. Is this person bringing in and has examples of, if you're interviewing, of introducing clarity across all those customer touch points? Does your website match up with your sales deck versus like what's going on your socials? And we talked about success metrics earlier, and does that then lead to like less rumbling internally? Because usually what comes out of that lack of clarity is like team getting a bit pissed off with each other, and like that kind of that all going on, sales getting annoyed because product isn't shipping anything that actually customers are asking about in sales calls, marketing getting frustrated because they've just spent a lot of money on a brand campaign that like isn't supported at all by product, or product getting very confused that marketing's doing stuff that isn't tied to the core customer. Like if all of that noise isn't happening or is being reduced, then I think you've probably introduced a great product marketer, and product marketing starting to have impact.
Should ask that question, shouldn't I?
You can throw it in for next time.
Yeah, exactly. This has been incredibly valuable. I can imagine this is one of those that people go away and come back to and listen again and again, or they use their LLM of choice to download the notes and remind them of these things. Where should people connect with you? How can they be useful to you? Is it the Substack, or is it LinkedIn, or all of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. If you're a product marketer or a marketer looking to learn more about product marketing, it's productmarketer.substack.com. You can just search for that. If you are thinking about working with a consultant, or interested in collaborating, like actually on your business, then hello@theproductmarketer.co, or productmarketer.co for the website. But yeah, so yeah, I'm very easy to get hold of, I think.
Great. Thanks for your time today, and everything will be in the show note in the support and newsletter. So any of that would be in one click away. So thanks again for today, Rory, and I think you're going to be an invaluable asset to many.
Oh, thanks, Danny.